Wow, Hoyoverse gave us a free S-rank agent. Dr. Ratio is pretty good, and he's holding up pretty well. Let's see how Harumasa's doing. Last place? Behind Ben? Behind Ellen, who's been power crept already? Behind the 4-star attackers? Okay, maybe this isn't the game mode for him. Let's check out Deadly Assault. Last place again? There's no way Hoyoverse would just give us a free character and he's just worse than every other character in the game, right? Well, they kinda did, but not for the reason that you think. You see, he's a character that has by far the most depth in Zenless Zone Zero so far, but this includes a mechanic that you wouldn't know even if you did the forbidden technique of reading his skills, and some advanced tricks that you probably wouldn't have thought of on your own. In this video, I'll go over all of his mechanics from simple to mega sweaty so you know everything Harumasa is actually capable of that Hoyoverse didn't tell you about. Then I'll explain some of his combos and finish by showing a 3-star clear of the marionettes in Deadly Assault using a free-to-play team with no S-rank W engines using the techniques I show in this video. In order to understand the advanced mechanics, we must first go over the basics, from his dash attacks to his quivers, his dash attacks being his main source of damage and his quivers being how he gets them. For his quivers, he gets 6 from X specials, chain attacks, anomalies, and then his 5th basic will generate 6 if it's used after a chain attack and 2 otherwise. Okay, that sounds simple enough. Now let's go over how to use them. Hold down his basic attack to shoot an enemy with an arrow, consume the quivers, and mark them with an X. He will apply a stack of X prison to the enemy per quiver consumed, and if they are stunned or suffering from an anomaly, he will add 2 more stacks. After this arrow, his basic attack will dash towards the X-marked enemy and consume 2 stacks of the X-Prison. Once the number of stacks drops below 2, his basic attacks won't be dash attacks anymore. Okay, so we generate the quivers, shoot the arrow, and dash attack to do big damage, right? Well, this is where Hoyoverse withheld very important information for no one knows why. If you've been paying attention, you'll notice his kit sounds very similar to Juyuan. Prepare enhanced basic attacks, then unload them during stun windows. But Harumasa can only prepare 4 at a time. Or at least that's what the kit descriptions would have you believe. I didn't mention anything about what happens when you generate quivers while having quivers already on the field. What happens is that those excess arrows are turned into X% stacks. This is enormous. This turns the number of attacks you can prepare from 4 to 8. This is so important to his damage that I think it's absolutely insane you would not know this unless you search for third-party resources. These X% stacks are different from the ones generated by the arrow though. From his skill description, his basic attacks only turn into dash attacks after the arrow, so to use the dash attacks, you have to, well, dash and attack. If you don't, you'll just be using basic attacks and be sad. There's also another important detail, which is that because he generates 2 X% stacks from using the arrow on an enemy under stun or anomaly, if you implant the X% stacks by overcapping, you will never get those 2 X% stacks. Oh, and his ult does damage. There are some cool things you can do with the ult, but I'll talk about that later. You'd expect it to generate quivers, but it doesn't. Okay, that was a lot. Let's do a quick recap. He generates quivers from his 5th basic attack, proccing an anomaly, his X special, and chain attack. He converts them into X% stacks either by shooting his arrow or by implanting them automatically by exceeding the maximum of 6 on the field. Then he uses the X% stacks for dash attacks to do his big damage. Now that we know how he works, let's explain how to put this into practice. To maximize his damage, you will have to know how to maximize the number of dash attacks, and to do so you will be using both ways of generating X% stacks, so let's go over the pros and cons of each. The pros of the arrow is that you get 4 dash attacks for using it during a burst window, which would be an anomaly or stun. The con is that it's slower because you're spending time shooting the arrow. The pros of overcapping is that you skip the arrow animation, and the con is that you get 3 dash attacks at a time, which is less than 4. Now I will be talking about how to improve his combo during stun windows. If you haven't seen my 6 levels of Harumasa combos video, the link is in the description and up here, but I recommend that you watch it now because I will be going over each of the optimizations I did in that video, mostly in order. Let's start with the most basic combo first. You use the chain attack, generate 6 quivers, and then those 6 quivers turn into 8 X% stacks. And those 8 X% stacks turn into 4 dash attacks, and we can generally repeat this 2 more times during a stun window. If you run out of energy, use basic attack 4 and 5 because that's better than nothing, but you'll lose some dash attacks during the stun window. Let's take it up a notch. Now I'll use that secret mechanic that Hoyo hid from the players for some reason. For this combo, we need to have 6 arrows already on the field. It doesn't matter how, just make sure that they are there. So we chain attack, and because those 6 quivers that were already on the field are converted into X% stacks, we can dash 3 times. Now we will still have 6 quivers on the field. Then we use X again and generate 6 more X prison stacks. We still have 6 quivers on the field. Then we use those for 3 dash attacks, and then we X again. We still have 6 quivers on the field. Finally, using basic attack 4 and 5 will be slower than just finishing the combo with the arrows. We use that and finish with 4 dash attacks. Most of you have probably noticed that I haven't applied Nicole's debuffs during this rotation, and your window to do this will be while he's refreshing X prison stacks, because that animation is generally the longest and long enough to do swap cancel. You can also use the support's ultimate, and depending on the support, it's either faster or slower, but in Nicole's case, her ult is faster. I haven't mentioned Harumasa's ultimate yet, and I'll talk about it more later, but for now, either ult at the start to maximize the amount of decibels that you get, or at the end of the stun duration, because there's an animation lock after using his ult, so if you use it during the middle, you'll lose out on some dash attacks. So combined with support buffs, it looks like this. Also, depending on the situation, you might not have enough energy for the second X special, in which case you can do basic attack 4 or 5 and swap cancel during that. And it's slower, but you still get those dash attacks, and you want to get them any way you can. Another benefit to this combo is that you're doing a lot of quick assists. Fortunately, there just so happens to be a new Discraft set that likes quick assists. I actually recommend putting this on your stunner if you choose to do so, because I think doing more damage during stun windows to secure a 1 or 2 or 3 stun kill is more important than stunning faster but having to do an extra stun cycle. That's a separate discussion though, and the more advanced combos don't use many quick assists. In my opinion, this is the bread and butter combo that most Harumasa players should be using. It requires a little bit of planning, but not an insane amount. It's straightforward enough to make sense and be easily applicable to most stun situations, and it feels smooth to play without shooting the arrow. But we can go further and optimize the combos more. The first optimization we can do is, instead of just preparing 6 quivers, we can additionally prepare 2 more and prepare an additional 2 X prison stacks on the enemy. So this means that you can do 4 dash attacks instead of just 3 in the first part of the combo. You can technically do this 4th attack anytime during the stun window, as long as you do it before you shoot the arrow. The second optimization we can do is using manual chain attacks instead of auto. If we do auto, we're pretty much capped at that 13 dash combo. Normally, using a dash attack triggers the chain attack, but with manual, we can open a stun window using some dash attacks. There's also another advantage, which is that you can cancel a chain attack, and that stun bar doesn't move for a tiny bit of time, which lets us squeeze some more dash attacks. The biggest tip I have for manual chain attack is that you should make sure that you're holding the skill button down to make sure the chain attack doesn't attack over holding the basic attack. If you hold the basic attack, it's just a nightmare, and you'll have to do this at least 8 times, if not more, per combo, and there's just so much room for error. I usually end up pressing down the skill after I hit dodge and then attack, so I will do dodge, attack, press skill, and hold it until I'm ready to activate a chain attack. Because manual chain attack unlocks many different combos and many different variations, I won't show off a specific combo here. Instead, I'll provide some combos to copy after I've explained all of the mechanics. Okay, on to the next, and what I believe to be the coolest mechanic of his kit. The third optimization we can do is animation canceling his ultimate with his X special. It looks like this.
Ever heard the whistle of arrows in flight?
Okay, this looks intimidating, and you probably won't get it just by watching this, so let me break down what's actually going on here. Obviously, chain attacks activate with heavy attacks, and they activate the instant it connects. So let's look at Harumasa's X. It has a wind up, then after the sound, it hits. What we want to do is ult after it fires, but before it hits. So we want to try to use the sound. We want the ult to hit just as the hit sound starts. Ult too early and it doesn't generate any quivers. Ult too late and well, the X activate the chain area. So we are ulting in between the time the projectile is shot and hits the enemy. The timing is just as that hit sound starts. The timing is quite short, so it takes a lot of practice to get right. A simpler and more forgiving version of this is with Juyuan. Her X has 2 hits, and the second is the one that activates the chain attack. You can notice that if I X then ult, the ult animation is cut short because the X activated the chain attack. Harumasa is just like this, except the timing is much shorter. I hope I've conceptually explained this well, because honestly, watching frame-by-frame breakdowns of people doing this animation cancel didn't really help me out. Practice this in training mode using a level 10 or 20 enemy. Remember, the timing is too fast to actually listen for that click, but if you barely heard it, that means you did it right. This is a great way of saving time during stun windows from our dash attack since you don't waste time on that ult animation. Finally, the fourth and final optimization is the one method of obtaining quivers that I haven't talked about yet, which is shocks or anomalies. Obviously, this will net the most damage because it aligns with the Thunder Metal set, but it's also the hardest to consistently pull off. We'll want to shock the enemy at a very specific timing that I will explain later in the combo section to implant X% stacks. A few things to note are that one source of anomaly that you may not expect is your Bangbu. That guy actually applies a lot of anomaly, and if you're applying too much, you could swap him out to get the anomaly timing correct. Another thing to note is that it technically doesn't have to be a shock, but the shock obviously has synergy with Thunder Metal. If Nicole activates Corruption instead of Shock at the right timing, the combo still works, but you don't get that Thunder Metal attack bonus. Finally, it's okay if Shock activates early for 99% of cases. You just have to remember that this just means that you won't be able to do the Shock specific combo. Okay, that's all the major mechanics for his kit. Before I go into combos, I'll go over a few miscellaneous things that I didn't mention earlier. First, before stage, you can actually just shoot the air to prepare 6 quivers. Don't ask me or Harumasa where those quivers came from, but you can do that. I don't blame you if you don't feel like doing this, but well, it's possible. Second, even though he's technically ranged, he doesn't have ranged parry like Juyuan or Billy, so he's using 2 charges per parry, which is a bit annoying for Decibel generation. Last, if this is too much, that's totally okay. We're doing all these fancy combos, but the more advanced we go, the smaller the gains, because we're only gaining 1 or 2 dash attacks. If you want to play Harumasa, but these combos look too intimidating, that's totally fine. At the end of the day, if you don't find these combos fun to do, you don't have to learn them. Finally, you can refer to my 6 levels of Harumasa combos video to see what combos I will be covering right now. Let's start with the level 4 combo. I'm playing it in real time, then I'll break it down. I recommend doing this when you're short on decibels since this is a combo where you don't have time to ult until you're late into the combo. I won't be showing the number of quivers on field or the number of X% stacks the enemy has because my goal with this video is that I've explained it well enough that you can figure that out on your own. If you still can't figure out what's happening though, you can leave a comment and I or someone else will answer it. Each of these combos assumes we already have 6 quivers on the field, and we're going to start all of them by using Nicole X into Harumasa X. Nicole's X for the debuffs and Harumasa's X to overcap and apply 6 X% stacks to the enemy for 3 dash attacks. This also makes manual chain attack easier since we're already holding the skill. You also need to have prepared 2 X% stacks on the enemy before starting the combo, so this lets us start with 4 dash attacks. Then we shoot an arrow and use the quivers on the field for 4 more dash attacks. We use Nicole's ult because it comes out faster and triggers the chain attack faster than using her skill. Because we don't have any X% stacks, we have to use our skill to put 3 in by overcapping. Then we swap to Nicole to refresh debuffs. Because there were 6 quivers on the field, the chain attack puts 6 X% stacks on the enemy. At this point, we just use as many dash attacks as we can while trying to fit our ult before the stun duration runs out. Okay, now I'm showing the level 5 combo, which involves the X into ult animation cancel.
Clear mind. Arrows fly through. Let's keep it up.
We start the combo with Nicole X into Harumasa X, just like the combo before, but this time we're only using 3 dash attacks and we're only using 1 dash attack after the arrow. This is just simply because of how the timings align. This next part is very similar, except instead of using X special to prepare 3 X dash attacks, they were already there because we did use them before the Nicole. And we shoot an arrow to prepare 4 dash attacks before doing the X into ults animation cancel. You don't have to use the arrow, but just be aware that you only get 3 dash attacks after Nicole's chain attack. At this point, you're just trying to get as many dash attacks as possible before the stun rate runs out. The reason I'm not saying the arrow is mandatory is that you don't have enough time to fit in all the dash attacks, so if you just choose to skip the arrow in favor of more dash attacks and using your skill, I would totally understand. Before I go over the fabled 19 dash combo, I'm going to show you some alternatives that you can do if Nicole's ultimate isn't up. where you just use her chain attack instead of using her ultimate. They're pretty much the same thing, except one of them uses a 4+4 opening, while the other one uses a 3+1 opening. The 4+4 opening was using the level 4 combo, while the 3+1 opening was using the level 5 combo.
Evasive maneuver.
If your Nicole runs out of energy and you can't refresh your buff, well, honestly, I have to say that's a skill issue because there's not really much reason to be using Nicole's skill outside of stun windows. So you should almost always have enough energy to refresh your debuff. With enough energy recharge, you could technically use Nicole's skill to continue the combo instead of Nicole's ult, but just know that you'll be losing out on dash attacks at the end. Okay, now for the fabled 19 dash combo. There's a lot that can go wrong both in the setup and execution, so this is not the type of combo that you'd use in regular gameplay. However, it's pretty fun to try to do, and it's even more fun to pull off successfully.
We're not done yet?
Okay, so for this combo, we're going to do a 4+4 opening. However, we need to make sure that the shock only applies after we shoot the first arrow. This is because we need those 6 quivers for when we do the chain attack to follow up with 3 dash attacks. So if in the second 4 dash attacks you activate the shock, don't worry, you did not mess up the combo, and the latest you can activate the shock is with Harumasa's chain attack, otherwise you don't get dash attacks to continue the combo. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, if Nicole's ultimate is the what activates corruption, this combo is still possible. However, obviously you want it to be a shock if you're using the Thunder Metal set, but if you're not, you don't exactly care which anomaly it is. If you were paying attention, you might notice that that last section looked exactly the same as level 5, and you would be correct. This is the part of the combo where I would say you dump the rest of your dash attacks. However, using an arrow for 4 more dash attacks after the full prepared dash attacks just so happens to perfectly fit into the rest of the stun duration. Now, here's the 3-star clear of Deadly Assault that I promised earlier in the video. Now that you hopefully have a better idea of how the combos work, try to follow along and see how these combos can actually be used in your gameplay.
that.
If you made it this far into the
something?
video, thank you so much for
I'll
watching.
ask my
If you found this
colleagues.
video helpful, please drop a like and comment. It would mean the world to me. I also have some more video ideas to do before my winter break ends, so subscribe if you're interested in some more ZZZ content. Again, thank you so much for watching.
Is it time to clock out?